Hey Maggie, have you heard about Mothman?
Of course.
Now, did you know Mothman took down an entire bridge all by himself?
All by himself?
All by himself, one moth against a bridge, and the moth won.
Oh my god.
It's like the butterfly effect, but the moth effect, and all it affects is bridges.
He's basically a natural disaster.
Oh, there is nothing natural about him, but we'll talk about that later.
Welcome, folks, to the Creature Feature Picture Show. It's an absolute pleasure to have you all with us here tonight. Without further ado, let's introduce our ghastly hosts.
We don't really know how old Mothman is, how long he's been around. There aren't records like there are for Bigfoot, but we do know the first really famous sighting was in the early morning on November 12th, 1966. Five gravediggers were working on a grave near Clendenin, West Virginia, which is approximately 50 miles away from Point Pleasant, West Virginia. And as they were digging, working on this grave, they looked into the sky, they looked up, and they reported seeing a large, brown, and human-like figure with wings lift out from the tree cover and fly silently overhead. One of the gravediggers, named Kenneth Duncan, was actually quoted to say it looked like a brown human thing. Now, the same night, another man unrelated to the gravediggers named Newell Partridge was watching TV. His dog was sleeping outside, as they did every night, and he reported that his dog Bandit, a German Shepherd, started going haywire as his TV malfunctioned and started making high-pitched whining noises. Now, Partridge, he went outside to investigate with his dog, and he claimed to see two large red eyes similar to a car's headlights right by his hay barn. And at the same time, Bandit, for whatever reason, charged at whatever had those eyes, whatever creature was in the hay or near the hay barn. Bandit didn't come home that night. In fact, Bandit never came home at all. Instead, a dead dog's body that was similar in description to Bandit was discovered near Point Pleasant in the TNT area, which we'll all discuss later. The most important thing being that Point Pleasant was almost 90 miles away from Mr. Partridge's home. Crazy! I mean, I know dogs can run far. I don't know about that far. So anyways, unfortunately, Bandit was found deceased and with no explanation.
I'm not here to victim blame Mr. Partridge,
Yeah.
but if my dog started going crazy and my TV started going crazy at the same time, I wouldn't
leave the dog
outside. I would get my dog and stay indoors.
That dog is going on a leash inside. I don't know, rest in peace, Bandit. He was trying to protect his owner. A few days after these first encounters, probably the most famous encounters of Mothman, the most famous sightings occurred. Two couples named Linda and Roger Scarberry and Mary and Steve Millette were driving late at night through the TNT area, which is the same one that Bandit was found in. And the TNT area is an abandoned World War II facility used to manufacture ammunition. So, of course, not anymore, but in World War II, it was used to manufacture ammo for the soldiers. And it's named the TNT area because of the use of trinitrotoluene, used for the explosives within the shells. As these two couples drove by the abandoned North Power Plant, they encountered what they described as a 6 to 7 foot tall gray creature with large glowing red eyes. Now, of course, as any sane person would do, they got out of there. They reportedly drove over 100 miles an hour in their little car on this little dirt road just to get away from that thing. But silently, the creature flew after them, it chased them, and it kept up with them effortlessly. It was reported to not even have to flap its wings at 100 miles an hour. And occasionally, it was completely silent, except for when it would squeak like a big mouse. Which is either the least intimidating thing I've ever heard or the most intimidating thing I've ever heard. I I can't say which one it is, but I would probably shit my pants if it were me, realistically.
Yeah, it's easy for me to sit here and say, squeaking like a mouse? That's so
Yeah.
silly. But if a giant creature
But
was chasing after me and started squeaking, I think I would be terrified.
Mothman followed them all the way back to the city limits of Point Pleasant, and then just like it appeared, it disappeared into the night. Now, after these first observations, between 1966 and 1967, there were over 100 Mothman sightings by so many different people living in Point Pleasant. Along with this, there were also nightly UFO sightings in the city. So it went from Point Pleasant being a completely normal town to Point Pleasant being filled to the brim with paranormal activity and cryptid nonsense, like a terrifying change. Along with this, people also reported to start having strange and almost prophetic dreams. So there was just a really big sense of unease and dissettlement and just a buildup of anxiety in this town. And if that wasn't enough, tall men in dark and poorly fitted suits started randomly arriving to the town. They would go to people's workplaces, they would have, rehearsed precise scripts that they would give people that were almost uncanny. Because their tones were very detached. Like they had almost no emotion when they were talking to people. Now, we know this because there were several journalists who had encounters with these men in black. They reported being followed, being questioned aggressively, and even harassed. And despite all of this, they were never provided with government ID, there was no proof of jurisdiction, nothing. Very weird stuff. If someone showed up to my door in a poorly fitted suit asking me weird questions, I'm not opening the door. I'm sending my dog Bandit out to take care of these people.
I gotta say, I think it's hilarious that this town in total crisis, everyone's going crazy, these men are showing up, and one of the defining characteristics that they notice about these men is that their suits are poorly fitted. There's so much more to talk about in this situation. But man, are those guys dressed terrible.
Even more strangely, these quote-unquote men in black were known to ask odd questions about household appliances or mundane, daily routines, as if they were unfamiliar with modern technology. Now, along with this, of course, they also asked about the cryptid sightings, the UFO sightings, and they were even known to tell the townspeople not to talk about them. And this was before the Men in Black movies. This was happening in 1966 and 1967. So the whole Men in Black franchise wasn't even a thing yet, which is very weird to me, very strange to me. All of this, the 13 months of paranoia and strangeness and weird supernatural things happening, came to a culmination on December 15th, 1967. And this happened with the collapse of the Silver Bridge. Now, what is the Silver Bridge? It was an I-bar chain suspension bridge that had been built in 1928 to connect Point Pleasant, West Virginia with Gallipolis, Ohio. And it spanned over the Ohio River. It made things a lot more convenient for the people living there. It was great. In this bridge, a single stress crack that was less than 0.1 inches deep had grown over time due to corrosion, fatigue, just the overall weight of what the bridge was holding. That one stress crack caused the entire bridge to collapse. And it's likely due to the fact that this bridge was built in the 1920s and was just not equipped to handle the weight of 1960s traffic. And unfortunately, in this accident, 46 people lost their lives. It actually remains one of the worst bridge disasters in American history. It was really bad. But the strangest thing is, after this bridge collapsed, all of the weirdness that had been plaguing Point Pleasant for 13 months stopped. The UFO sightings stopped, the Mothman sightings stopped, and then the Men in Black disappeared. Almost overnight, the paranormal things happening in this town vanished. I don't even understand that. Honestly, weird. Whatever you believe, weird. Some people actually believe that Mothman caused this catastrophe. From his first sighting to the bridge collapse, he had just been building up to this big moment. He was actually known as the Harbinger, which is ignoring this terrible event, a pretty kick-ass name. I wish I was known as the Harbinger. But witnesses actually reported seeing Mothman flying around the bridge before and after the incident. But other people believe that he was actually trying to warn the citizens of Point Pleasant about this disaster. And this is supported by how many people had just like those dreams that felt like premonitions I mentioned earlier. So many people avoided the bridge due to just an impending sense of dread, random car trouble, and even sudden illness that stopped them from potentially losing their lives. Overall, many strange and unexplainable things happened over these 13 months in Point Pleasant. And over 100 sightings of Mothman, they were all incredibly consistent. They describe him as 6 to 7 feet tall, broad shoulders with human-like anatomy, a 10 to 15 foot wingspan where he did not flap his wings to fly, he typically glided at very high speeds. He also was described to have large, glowing red eyes that were, quote, redder than red, like they were intense, as well as gray, brown, and black coloring. And funnily, no discernible head or neck. Instead, his eyes were set in his upper chest, which is a very interesting detail,
That's
I think.
so silly.
It is. It's very silly. Because he's at that point just a walking torso. I guess a flying torso. He also had those mouse-like vocalizations and tended to avoid light, chase cars, and watch people from a distance.
So,
Which honestly just kind of sounds like a cat.
so are these squeaks like it wasn't just that group of people in the car? It was that like
No, there were multiple people who reported squeaking, I think. One thing that I found that I've not read before or heard before, originally Mothman wasn't described as a moth at all. That term was later coined by journalists, but the townspeople, when they first started seeing him, just called him the bird. He was reported to have feathers, and they called the North Power Plant, where he was believed to live, the birdhouse. So a lot of people actually believed him to be more avian than moth or humanoid, which again is really interesting to me. And while the most famous, stories of Mothman are from Point Pleasant, he's actually been observed all over the Midwest. He's actually had a lot of sightings in Illinois, even at the O'Hare Airport, some in Ohio. I think there are a couple in Indiana, and funnily enough, he's also been seen in Moscow, Japan, and Ukraine. National tour.
he got a little lost.
Yeah, he got a little confused, He has homing like a bird, but it got all messed up, I think. Anyways, regardless, it's very interesting that there have been sightings kind of in such strange places. Now, considering all of these things, what the heck could Mothman be descended from? This is a weird combination of traits.
Honestly, I don't think he's descended from anything. I think he got made. I think Mothman is brand new.
Yeah, he got created by God himself.
By the US government.
By the US government. You've heard about test tube babies, but we present to you test tube Mothman.
He sounds like a weapon of war or something. Like he was created
They made him out of the leftover TNT that they had.
Yeah, he's actually just a bullet. He's just flying around, and one day he's gonna hit something and explode.
Actually, the bunkers that are still there, the abandoned bunkers in the TNT zone, one of them did randomly explode in 2010. So maybe Mothman finally collided with something.
Mothman's dead. You heard it here first. Mothman died in 2010.
Well, unfortunately, for the sake of this channel, I do have to give some other options, even though I do like this theory a lot, actually. Mothman, a lot of people believe that he was actually a sandhill crane. Sandhill cranes, they don't migrate through Point Pleasant, but they're near enough that one of them feasibly could have become lost and just flown around Point Pleasant and harassed the denizens. A lot of ornithologists actually believe this is the case because sandhill cranes have large red spots right by their eyes, and they stand almost as tall as a human. My second theory is that that Mothman is actually a certain type of bat. Certain fruit bat species, not in North America, in Asia typically, a lot of they're pretty widely distributed over Asia actually, but these fruit bats get huge. They can have wingspans up to 5 feet. They're also nocturnal. They fly, of course, as bats do, and they squeak when they echolocate. So I could totally see someone hearing the squeak of a giant bat and being like, oh yeah, that sounds like a mouse. It would even make sense if they're chasing the car. To keep up with it, they have to continuously echolocate to make sure they're keeping up with the car, so maybe that's why it was squeaking occasionally, you know? And then lastly, barn owls. Barn owls are plentiful in West Virginia. They're actually all over the Midwest. They have a silent gliding flight where they don't really need to fully flap their wings. They do move them up and down, but it's much more of a kind of wiggle and less of a full flap like you would expect a bird to do. And they have freakishly large eyes for their head size. And they really match the first person eyewitness drawing of Mothman. They have a very, very similar silhouette. So barn owls are my third option. I would like to say Maggie messed up and deleted our rock, paper, scissors, but I won for the 3rd time in a row. And Maggie told me like 5 minutes ago, oh, I think we need to redo the rock, paper, scissors. That was planned. You deleted that footage on purpose. Because you can't face the shame of losing rock, paper, scissors 3 times in a row.
What can I say? I'm an evil mastermind.
You are truly nefarious, but I see through your plot, and I just need to let the people know that I won, so I will be going first.
Yeah, you did win.
I did, thank you. With the paper that came to me in a dream the night before we recorded the first time. Anyways, without further ado, you want to talk about barn owls?
Yeah, let's talk about owls.
So, there are a few reasons why I think Mothman is actually more closely related to owls than he is moths, and one of the most compelling arguments is flight. Barn owls are known for their near-silent flight, which is allowed by highly specialized flight feathers that break up turbulence in the air and reduce sound. Barn owls also have what's called low wing loading. Now, wing loading is the total weight of an animal's body area divided by the total area of their wing, and a large wing-to-body ratio allows for flight that is more gliding between takeoff and landing and less flapping like a lot of other bird flight is. A direct quote from this article is actually, barn owls are buoyant in flight and moth-like, which I thought was, of course, extremely relevant for this argument. Now, this more buoyant floating flight is better for slower flight speeds. Barn owls can actually hit speeds of 30 miles an hour when hunting, so they can hit, not the fastest bird by any mean, but they're pretty quick when they need to be. Now, eyes. Of course, Mothman has those giant characteristic red eyes, and barn owls are more known for their dark brown eyes. But some individual barn owls actually show an orange, almost glowing eye morph, which it's more common in certain geographic regions, but it was really hard to figure out where those regions actually were. I still think it's important to bring up that they can have these really luminescent eyes. Coloration is also something I wanted to take into consideration because barn owls are known for their bright white plumage, their faces with the brown back. However, there is a lesser known extremely rare melanistic morph of barn owl that has dark brown and black colors, which almost perfectly matches the descriptions of Mothman's, being grays, browns, and blacks. The silhouette of barn owls also almost perfectly matches the drawings done of Mothman, where they have the big eyes, no discernible neck, instead their head is very square and could definitely be mistaken for eyes on a torso. They also have really long legs compared to most birds, and it looks like they have pants almost like this drawing. Barn owls also have, their typical vocalizations are more of it actually sounds like a woman screaming. It's their typical call, but their secondary call is called a purring call, and it's used by males to invite females to check out their nest, or by females to solicit food from males, and it sounds like this. And then, in comparison, here's a mouse's call. And lastly, a lot of seemingly random things about barn owl behavior perfectly matches Mothman's behavior. So barn owls forage at the same height as cars, which would make sense with Mothman hovering and flying the exact same height as the car windows. Barn owls' eyes are twice as sensitive to light as humans, which means that bright lights can actually impair their vision, which could be why Mothman avoids bright lights. And barn owls are found all over the place. Most importantly, every place that Mothman has ever been sighted except for Japan. But there are tons of barn owl species that live around Japan, so it's not impossible for one of them to have just flown over, you know? And lastly, and not scientifically, barn owls are an omen of death, and depending on the culture, they are either a warning of death or the cause, the bringer of death, which fits with Mothman being an omen or the harbinger. So pretty cool stuff. I feel like owls are kind of a shoo-in for this, but I do think there are some important counter-arguments to bring up as well. The first thing being the tail, which is actually kind of a non-issue. I was worried when I picked owls that, okay, they have this, characteristic body shape, they've got these flared tails. No, their tails are quite small. They don't really flare them up when they fly, and they're only really obvious from a couple angles when the bird is flying, which is most importantly straightforward. But every other angle, I feel like they're not that obvious, and also with the shape of Mothwing, like how his wings were drawn, it could be argued that there's probably a tail back there, right? Because it's just straight down in the same shape of a bird tail. More importantly, I think the bigger counter-argument would be size. Mothman is described to be 7 feet tall with a wingspan of up to 15 feet. Barn owls can stand between 33 and 40 centimeters with a wingspan of up to 4 feet. They are nowhere close to Mothman's size. However, after some research, I actually found 2 barn owl species that get extremely close to Mothman's size. The first one being Tyto gigantea, which is an enormous extinct barn owl from Cuba that had a wingspan of up to 6.5 feet, and it stood at 1.8 meters, which is 2.7 feet. This bird was fully flighted and had a similar diet and behaviors to modern day barn owls. So like almost exactly the same, could fly, just a lot bigger. And secondly is Tytopollens, which is an extinct burrowing species of barn owl from the Bahamas. And this bird stood at 1 meter tall, 3.2 feet tall. And it is debated whether this owl could fly, but it did have large and robust wings that could have supported flight, hypothetically. Now, I looked into modern day birds that stand at about 1 meter tall, and their wingspan are between 10 to 11 feet, which almost exactly matches Mothman's 10 to 15 foot wingspan. So I was shocked that owls had ever gotten this big and how close they were to Mothman's size. I think it's insane.
Yeah, that's pretty wild.
Anyways, that's my argument for barn owls.
In a miraculous change of events, instead of going with any of the 3 options that Ava presented, I am arguing that Mothman may or may not have descended from flying squirrels. So flying squirrels, despite the name, don't actually fly. What they do is glide. So instead of wings, they have this kind of membrane. It's called a patagium. And so when they want to start gliding, they'll go up to a really high point and jump off. And then they can use the bones in their wrists to either tighten or loosen their membrane, depending on like the direction they want to go in, if they want to drop farther or drop like less, and that kind of thing. So they're actually gliding. They're not really flying. When they're doing this, they can get up to 20 to 30 miles per hour, and the record, I believe, is a distance of 300 feet. Typically, they go about 150, but they can go longer than that. So flying squirrels in the United States, specifically in West Virginia, there are 2 species. There's the northern flying squirrel and the southern flying squirrel, both pretty similar in their looks. Typically, they're like a brown or a dark gray color, and their stomach's usually like a little bit lighter. They have humongous eyes, like half of their face is their eyes, and a tapetum lucidum, so their eyes glow in the dark when like a light is shown on them. They have very like light, soft looking, almost like chinchilla-like fur that to me definitely could look like the down feathers of birds. And if you don't know what a down feather is, they're like very soft, small feathers that are used in like pillows and that kind of thing. There are species in Eastern Asia that have bodies that can get up to 17 inches in length. So, I mean, if you've ever seen like a flying squirrel in the United States, that's pretty big for a flying squirrel. I would say the flying squirrels in the US would fit in like their entire hand. So they're not too big. They're not as big as regular squirrels. They also have long bushy tails, and when I say bushy, they're flat, but like coming off of the side is bushy. I believe they can rotate their tail to help with their gliding. So like I said, there are two species that are native to West Virginia, the northern flying squirrel and the southern flying squirrel. The northern flying squirrel is not as common and is located in like a specific part of West Virginia, but the southern flying squirrel is everywhere in West Virginia, in the entire eastern United States. Behavior-wise, flying squirrels will often travel together, and they also nest together, especially during the winter months when it's cold, to preserve energy. And they make what was described as bird-like chirps. I could definitely see them being bird-like, but I can also see them being mouse-like. It's kind of treading a line. So why did I say all of those things? Gliding at 20 to 30 miles per hour would keep up with a car. Obviously, it wouldn't keep up with a car going 100 miles per hour, but I could think that maybe 100 miles per hour was an exaggeration. Maybe they felt like they were going a lot faster because they were scared. With feather-like fur and bird-like chirps, they definitely could be mistaken as a bird, since Mothman was originally called the bird. And then it also matches like the mouse-like sounds that are made by Mothman. They have extremely large eyes that can glow red, and it would make a lot of sense if Mothman was near the bridge before and after the crash if it wanted to start a glide. And giant flying squirrels prove that gliding is possible at higher weights. So maybe they're not, 6 feet tall like Mothman was described, but they definitely can get bigger than we see them in the United States. And they're traveling together and huddling together in the winter, and most Mothman sightings happened in the winter. So, I think that Mothman is two flying squirrels. I think that Mothman is a species that evolved the behavior of flying together to conserve energy, okay? The legs are their two tails. The wings of Mothman is just their patagium. And if they already travel together, why not? It's my theory. It's my thought.
That's maybe the most insane theory you've ever thought of.
Like I'm kind of impressed with how much sense it makes. The only thing counting against me is size. I don't really think flying squirrels could ever get that big, but...
I think there might be a couple more things than that going against you.
No, I think that's the only one.
That's the only one. Okay. I have a couple questions.
Ask away.
Have flying squirrels ever been seen flying together like that?
Not like that together, but they do travel
Okay.
together.
Would there be any biologically adaptive reason for them to fly that way?
Yeah, I bet it saves energy. They're warmer, because Mothman was only seen in the winter.
Yeah, okay. Is it possible that they can fly that way?
Well, I think that if they held each other really tight, and there were no holes between them, yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, it's not like I could go get two flying squirrels and put them together and say,
No,
"Go, guys,
no,
let me see
I'm
if this
just-
works."
Like, has any animal ever been seen doing that before? You'd have to be really smart to time the wings at well, they don't have to flap it, so I guess
Well, they don't flap. They just have to hold each other
glide,
real
so-
tight.
People have flying squirrel suits, so maybe I wonder if humans have cause okay, here's something for your argument. Humans can glide with suits like that. Mothman, if he was the size of a human with the gliding capabilities of those suits, actually could get up to 6 feet tall. I don't know about a wingspan of 15 feet, which is another thing. But, I guess a human size could glide like that. Maybe we leave that in the realm of possibility.
Okay, hit me with your next.
4 ears, when Mothman has 0 ears.
That's a good point. I don't know if, their ears are not terribly big, but...
Yeah, but they are, they're visible.
Can't really argue with that.
Fair. 4/3 eyes.
I think if the flying squirrels were, so close together, that the inside eyes could be hidden.
And then also, Mothman doesn't have attached wings or hands or feet.
Yeah, so the picture that we've been using, like the drawing, I could see how that could kind of be flying squirrel-ish. The wings, like, they're drawn to look like they're behind Mothman, but I could see, like, how they could not be. If that makes sense. Like there's not really a gap anywhere, like even between Mothman's legs. Like it's just all wing. You know what I mean?
I do think, I mean, yeah, but like these very much look like bird wings to me, the way they're folded in, the way they're folded up. Like, that's exactly how a barn owl would fold its wings, or if it was stretching its wings back.
Yeah, well, to the point that barn owls hold their wings, you can't really see the wings in the dark morph. Like where the wings
true.
start and where the...
But if this is like a bottom up view where it was flying, it would look exactly like a barn owl flying. With the
would it?
wings
Because do
pumped
they not
up.
extend their wings a lot more?
It depends on what part of the flap they're in. But when they're gliding, so I don't know, but to me that looks like just a creatively drawn way that birds fold their wings up.
When they're gliding, are they fully outstretched or are they like bent?
No, they're when they're gliding, they're fully outstretched. I'm just saying, like, overall, to me, those they don't read
I
like
do agree.
big square, skin flaps, and also the no hands.
I think that hands could be very hard to see in the dark because they're so tiny. But to talk about the flying versus gliding, Mothman doesn't fly. So if the Mothman has only been seen gliding, it wouldn't really make sense for its wings to be like this.
Yeah, but maybe they saw it perched or something. I'm not sure. It looks more owl than two flying squirrels holding hands. I don't know, if you look at the below picture, you can see the really long owl legs, and then if the wings were just folded down, it'd be perfect. Because then also it's got the smooth round head that owls have, it's got the giant eyes. I don't know, it reads as owl.
Yeah, it's if I had the option between owl and squirrel, I definitely would think it looks more like an owl, but...
I just feel like owls are such a shoo-in for him. Like, even the size, that there was an owl that lived that had the exact same wingspan as him. I feel quite confident with it more being an owl than a squirrel.
Yeah, that's fair. He is more owl.
But do we agree that just for this,
Yeah,
at least
yeah.
our contestants,
an
owl? Yippee! I'm so excited.
But listen, I still think that I'm winning this one because Mothman is not an owl or a squirrel. He was created in a lab. And I know that I'm right with that, and I'm happy to take that victory.
So long, you well-meaning miscreants, and a good evening to you. This concludes tonight's showing of the Creature Feature Picture Show. Be sure to tune in to our next broadcast for more supernatural speculation. Until then, lock your doors, pray nothing goes bump in the night, and most importantly, stay spooky.